Hello, I'm Adam, and I'm here with my co-host, Julia, as we continue our journey of learning and exploring the English language together. Whether you're tuning in for the first time or you've been with us for a while, we're glad to have you here. As always, our goal is to help you learn English in a fun, interesting way by discussing real-life topics. Today, we have a really special episode lined up for you, one that I think will be both thought-provoking and incredibly useful, not just for learning English, but for personal development as well. So, sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's topic.
Thanks, Adam, and hello to all our wonderful listeners. It's great to be here with you again. Today we're talking about something that affects everyone in their lives, no matter where they come from or what language they speak. The psychology behind success and failure. This is such an important topic because success and failure are things we all experience, and how we think about them can deeply impact not just our happiness and personal growth, but also how we approach challenges like learning a new language, like English. So, in this episode, we'll be breaking down what success and failure mean, how they're connected, and how our mindset can shape the way we experience both.
Exactly, Julia. I think what makes this topic so fascinating is that success and failure are universal experiences, but how we understand and deal with them can vary greatly from person to person. Some people see failure as a roadblock, while others see it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Similarly, success can be different for everyone. It might mean achieving a big goal, or it might be about the small victories we have every day. And for many of our listeners, success could be mastering new English words or phrases, while failure might feel like struggling with pronunciation or grammar. But what we want to emphasize today is that success and failure are not opposites. They're part of the same journey.
Yes, and the way we think about success and failure can really determine how we move forward in life. This is where psychology comes in, understanding how our mindset, emotions, and even habits can influence whether we see ourselves as successful or not. For example, if you're learning English and you make a mistake, do you feel discouraged and give up? Or do you see it as a chance to improve? That difference in attitude, known as having a growth mindset, is key to not just learning English, but to succeeding in any area of life. And today, we'll be exploring how you can develop that mindset, how you can turn failure into a stepping stone for success, and why it's so important to keep going, even when things get tough.
That's such an important point, Julia. I think a lot of our listeners will find this discussion really valuable, especially if they've been feeling stuck or frustrated in their English learning journey. We're going to break everything down into simple, easy-to-understand concepts, but we're also going to challenge you to think about your own experiences with success and failure. By the end of today's episode, we hope you'll not only feel more motivated to keep learning English, but also gain some insights into how you can apply these ideas to other areas of your life. So, whether you're working on your language skills, pursuing a career goal, or trying to improve in any other area, this episode is for you.
That's right, Adam. We want to make sure that by the end of this podcast, our listeners walk away with a deeper understanding of how they can approach both success and failure in a healthy and productive way. And remember, this isn't just about learning English. It's about learning how to handle all of life's ups and downs. We'll be talking about the role of mindset, how to set realistic goals, the importance of learning from failure, and much more. So, whether you're just starting out on your English learning journey or you've been at it for a while, this episode will have something for you.
Absolutely. So, without further ado, let's get started. In the next segment, we'll begin by defining what success and failure mean, not just in a general sense, but also in the context of learning and personal growth. We'll also touch on how these definitions can change depending on the person and the situation. So, stay tuned, and we'll be right back after this short break. All right, let's dive into the heart of today's discussion by first defining what success and failure mean. Now, success is a word we hear a lot, but it can actually have many different meanings depending on the person and the situation. In the simplest terms, we can define success as achieving goals. But it's more than just ticking off a box on a list. It's about the sense of accomplishment that comes from working towards something meaningful, whether that's learning a new skill, completing a project, or even just improving in a small way. Success can be about reaching a specific outcome, but it can also be about the journey of getting there. For example, if you've set a goal to learn English, success doesn't necessarily mean becoming completely fluent overnight. It could mean understanding a new word, having a short conversation in English, or even just feeling more confident speaking the language. Success is really personal, and it's important to recognize the smaller victories along the way.
Yes, I agree with you, Adam. Success is definitely about more than just reaching a big goal. It's also about the small steps we take every day. When I think about success, I also think about happiness and self-improvement. Sometimes success is about achieving external goals, like getting a promotion at work or passing an exam, but it can also be about internal growth, feeling more confident, overcoming a fear, or learning from an experience. Success can be the process of becoming a better version of ourselves, step by step. For example, even if you've had a difficult day learning English, you might still consider it a success if you learned something new or if you pushed yourself to practice. Success isn't always about perfection, it's about progress.
That's such a great point, Julia. I love the idea of success being tied to self-improvement, because it means that even if things don't go perfectly, we can still find value in the effort we've put in. This brings us to the other side of the coin: failure. Failure is something we often fear or try to avoid, but it's just as much a part of life as success. In its simplest form, we can define failure as not achieving what we expect or want. It's when the outcome we were hoping for doesn't happen. But like success, failure is also subjective. What might feel like a failure to one person could just be a learning experience to someone else. For instance, let's say you try to speak English in front of a group of people, and you stumble over your words. You might feel like you failed because it didn't go as smoothly as you wanted. But is that really a failure? Or is it just part of the learning process?
Exactly, Adam. I think it's really important to reframe how we think about failure. When we hear the word failure, we tend to think of something negative, something final. But in reality, failure is not the end. It's just a part of the journey towards success. In fact, many successful people talk about how they've failed multiple times before achieving their goals. So instead of seeing failure as something to avoid, we can look at it as an opportunity to learn and grow. If you didn't do well on a language test, for example, that doesn't mean you're bad at English. It just means there are areas where you can improve. And once you identify those areas, you can work on them and become even better. That's why I always say that failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of it.
That's such an important mindset to have, Julia. I think it's something that a lot of people struggle with, especially when it comes to learning new skills, like a language. It's easy to get discouraged if things don't go perfectly the first time, but if we change the way we look at failure, it becomes less scary and more like a stepping stone. Let's think about an example. Imagine someone who's learning English, and they decide to speak to a native English speaker for the first time. They're nervous, of course, but they give it a try. Now, maybe they make some mistakes, maybe they forget a few words, and maybe the conversation doesn't go exactly as planned. That could feel like a failure at first. But if they reflect on the experience, they'll realize that just the act of trying to speak in English is a success in itself. They've gained confidence, they've practiced, and they've learned something new. That's why it's important to see failure as a part of the process, not something to fear.
Yes, and I think another great example is setting career goals. Let's say someone wants to get a promotion at work, but they don't get the position they applied for. It might feel like a failure at the moment, and they might feel disappointed or frustrated, but if they look at it from a different perspective, they can see it as an opportunity to learn. Maybe they need to develop certain skills, or maybe they need to improve their communication. Whatever the case, the experience of not getting the promotion can actually help them grow and prepare for the next opportunity. It's the same with learning a language. If you make mistakes, those mistakes are just feedback on what you can improve. In a way, failure gives us the information we need to succeed.
That's such a good point, Julia. And I think it's helpful to remember that everyone, no matter how successful they seem, has experienced failure at some point. In fact, many of the most successful people in the world talk about how failure played a huge role in their journey. Take someone like Thomas Edison, for example. He's famous for inventing the light bulb, but what people often forget is that he failed hundreds of times before he finally got it right. When asked about his failures, he didn't see them as wasted efforts. Instead, he said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." His mindset was focused on learning from each failure and using it as a step towards success. That's a great lesson for all of us, especially when we face challenges in learning English or any other goal we're working toward.
That's such an inspiring example, Adam. And it really shows how success and failure are connected. You can't have one without the other. Every failure brings you closer to success if you're willing to learn from it. I think it's also important to mention that success and failure aren't always as clear-cut as we think. Sometimes, what we think is a failure might actually be a success in disguise. For instance, if you try something and it doesn't work out, it might lead you to discover a new path or a better way of doing things. So, rather than focusing on the outcome, it's important to focus on the process and the progress you're making along the way.
Exactly, Julia. It's all about perspective. Success isn't always about achieving the perfect result. It's about moving forward, even if it's just one step at a time. And failure isn't something to be ashamed of. It's something to learn from. Whether you're learning a new language, pursuing a career, or working on a personal goal, both success and failure are part of the same journey. They're not separate. They're connected. And the more we embrace that idea, the more we can grow and succeed in all areas of our lives.
I couldn't agree more, Adam. So, to all our listeners out there, remember, success and failure are part of everyone's life. It's not about avoiding failure or achieving perfection. It's about embracing the process, learning from your mistakes, and celebrating the small victories along the way. In the next segment, we'll be talking more about mindset and how having the right attitude can help you turn failure into success. So stay with us, and we'll be right back after this short break.
Now, let's talk about something that plays a huge role in how we handle both success and failure: our mindset. You may have heard of two different kinds of mindsets: a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. These terms were made famous by a psychologist named Carol Dweck, who studied how our beliefs about our abilities affect our behavior. To explain it simply, a fixed mindset is when people believe their abilities, intelligence, or talents are fixed, meaning they can't change or improve. People with a fixed mindset often think that they are either good at something or they're not. For example, someone with a fixed mindset might say, "I'm just not good at English and I'll never be able to learn it." They believe their ability is limited, so they don't try to improve because they think it won't make a difference.
Yes, that's a great way to explain it, Adam. On the other hand, a growth mindset is the belief that abilities can be developed through hard work, effort, and learning. People with a growth mindset understand that even if they aren't good at something now, they can improve over time. They believe that challenges and failures are opportunities to grow. So instead of giving up when things get hard, they keep going because they know that they can get better with practice. For example, if someone with a growth mindset struggles with English, they won't say, "I'll never learn this." Instead, they might say, "I'm not good at English yet, but I'll keep practicing and improving." It's all about believing that change is possible.
Exactly, Julia. And this difference in mindset can have a huge impact on how we approach both success and failure. If you have a fixed mindset, you might avoid challenges because you're afraid of failing. You might think that if you don't succeed right away, it means you're not capable. This can make you give up easily and stop you from even trying. But if you have a growth mindset, you'll see challenges as opportunities to learn. You won't be afraid of failure because you understand that failure is part of the learning process. It's a completely different way of thinking, and it can make a big difference in how much you achieve.
That's right. When you have a growth mindset, you see effort as something positive. You understand that the more you practice, the better you'll become. On the other hand, with a fixed mindset, you might think that effort is a sign of weakness, that if you have to work hard, it means you're not naturally good at something. But that's not true at all. Even the most successful people in the world had to put in a lot of effort to get where they are today. The key difference is that they didn't see effort as a bad thing. They saw it as the path to success. And they weren't afraid to fail because they knew that failure is just part of the journey.
Yes, and that's such an important point. If we believe that our abilities are fixed, we limit ourselves. We might be afraid to try new things, take risks, or put ourselves in situations where we might fail. But with a growth mindset, we're open to new experiences, and we're willing to keep going even when things get tough. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you're learning English, and you try to have a conversation with someone, but you make mistakes. If you have a fixed mindset, you might feel embarrassed and decide not to speak English again because you think you'll never be good at it. But if you have a growth mindset, you'll think, I made some mistakes, but that's okay. I can learn from them and do better next time. That small shift in thinking can change everything.
Exactly. And this applies to all areas of life, not just learning a language. Our beliefs about ourselves have a huge impact on how we deal with success and failure. If we believe that we're capable of growing and improving, we'll be more likely to push through difficult times. But if we believe that our abilities are set in stone, we'll probably give up when things don't go as planned. There's a great story about Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, that really shows the power of a growth mindset. Edison failed thousands of times before he finally invented the light bulb, but he didn't see those failures as a reason to stop. He famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's the growth mindset in action, seeing failure as part of the process, not the end of the road.
That's such an inspiring story, Julia. It really shows how having a growth mindset can lead to incredible success. Edison didn't give up because he believed that every failure brought him closer to success. And he was right. There are so many stories of successful people who failed many times before they reached their goals. For example, J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter books, was rejected by several publishers before her first book was finally accepted. Imagine if she had given up after the first rejection. But she didn't. She believed in herself and kept going. And now, she's one of the most successful authors in the world. Her story is a great example of how a growth mindset can lead to success, even when things seem difficult.
Yes, and it's important to remember that success often comes after many failures. People like Thomas Edison and J.K. Rowling didn't succeed right away. They had to go through a lot of setbacks before they reached their goals. But what made them successful wasn't just their talent or intelligence. It was their mindset. They believed that they could improve, and they weren't afraid to fail along the way. That's something we can all learn from, whether we're learning a new language, working on a career goal, or trying to improve in any area of our lives. A growth mindset helps us keep going even when things get tough, because we know that every failure is just a step towards success.
And that's such a powerful lesson for all of us. When we change the way we think about failure, we stop being afraid of it. Instead of seeing failure as something negative, we can see it as an opportunity to learn and grow. And when we embrace that mindset, we open ourselves up to more success. Whether you're learning English, starting a new job, or trying to achieve a personal goal, having a growth mindset can help you push through challenges and keep moving forward. It's not about being perfect or avoiding failure. It's about believing that you can improve and that every effort brings you closer to success.
Exactly, Adam. And for our listeners, this is something you can apply to your English learning journey. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be discouraged if you don't understand something right away. Every mistake you make is an opportunity to learn and improve. And every time you practice, you're getting better. The more you adopt a growth mindset, the more success you'll experience, not just in learning English, but in all areas of your life.
That's right, Julia. So whether you're just starting out with learning English or working toward a big personal goal, remember that your mindset matters. With a growth mindset, you'll be able to face challenges, learn from failure, and ultimately achieve success. In the next part of our podcast, we'll dive even deeper into how you can develop a growth mindset and use it to overcome obstacles in your life.
One of the biggest barriers to success that people often face is the fear of failure. It's a very common feeling, and it can hold us back in ways we don't always realize. The fear of failure is that internal voice that says, "What if I try and I don't succeed? What if I make a mistake and people laugh at me? What if I'm just not good enough?" These thoughts can be incredibly powerful, and for many people they stop them from even attempting to reach their goals. It's a fear that can cause us to stay in our comfort zones, avoiding new challenges because we don't want to risk failing. And when we avoid taking risks or trying new things, we limit ourselves. Whether it's learning a new language, starting a new career, or even trying to build a new skill. Fear of failure can make us feel stuck. We may start to believe that it's safer to not try at all, but the truth is, by not trying, we're already failing to reach our potential.
That's such an important point, Julia. The fear of failure is something everyone experiences at some point, but the key is learning how to manage it, rather than letting it control us. It's not about pretending that the fear doesn't exist, because it does. It's about understanding that failure is a natural part of life, and it's something we can learn from. One of the most effective ways to overcome the fear of failure is by setting small, manageable goals. When we set big, overwhelming goals, the idea of failing can seem too risky or scary. But when we break those big goals down into smaller steps, it becomes easier to manage. For example, if you're learning English and you're afraid of speaking in front of others, don't start by giving a big speech. Instead, set a smaller goal, like practicing speaking with a friend or introducing yourself to a class. When you accomplish that smaller goal, you'll gain confidence, and that fear of failure will start to shrink.
That's a great strategy, Adam. Another way to deal with the fear of failure is to change the way we think about mistakes. Too often, people see mistakes as something negative, as something to avoid at all costs. But really, mistakes are just part of the learning process. Every time we make a mistake, we learn something valuable. The important thing is to reflect on those mistakes and ask ourselves, what can I learn from this? How can I do better next time? If we can change our mindset to see mistakes as opportunities for growth, we'll be less afraid of making them in the first place. For example, let's say you try to have a conversation in English, but you make a lot of errors. Instead of feeling embarrassed or thinking that you failed, you can use that experience as a lesson. You can figure out what you struggled with, work on those areas, and try again. Each time, you'll get better.
Exactly. And it's really all about building resilience. The more we practice facing our fears, the more we realize that failure isn't something to be afraid of. It's something we can use to our advantage. One simple technique that can help is to look at failure as feedback, rather than something permanent. Think of it as your personal guide that's telling you what you need to work on. In fact, many of the most successful people in the world only reached their success after experiencing failure. It's not the failure itself that matters. It's how we respond to it. By learning from our failures and not giving up, we move closer to success. Let's take a real-life example. Consider Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players in history. Did you know that he was cut from his high school basketball team? He could have given up after that, but instead, he used that failure as motivation to work even harder. That setback became the driving force behind his success.
And speaking of real-life examples, another great story is about Oprah Winfrey. Before she became one of the most successful and influential people in media, she faced many setbacks. Early in her career, she was fired from her job as a television reporter because her bosses didn't think she was fit for TV. Most people would have seen that as a huge failure. But instead of giving up, Oprah used that experience to learn and grow. She eventually went on to create her own show and build an empire, proving that failure doesn't have to be the end of the road. It can be the beginning of something even greater. These examples show us that failure is often a stepping stone to success, not a dead end.
That's such an inspiring example, Julia. And what we can take from these stories is that failure is not a reason to stop trying. It's a reason to keep going, to push harder, and to learn more. Failure can actually lead us to success if we approach it the right way. It's not about avoiding failure altogether. It's about embracing it as part of the journey. Think about it this way. If you never fail, it means you're probably not challenging yourself enough. You're staying within your comfort zone and not pushing the limits of what you can achieve. But if you're willing to take risks, try new things, and accept that failure might happen, then you open the door to learning and growth. Over time, those failures will turn into successes, and you'll look back and realize that they were necessary steps along the way.
Exactly, Adam. And for anyone listening who feels held back by the fear of failure, remember that failure is not a reflection of your worth or abilities. It's simply a part of the process. When we shift our focus from trying to avoid failure to learning from it, we set ourselves up for long-term success. Whether you're learning English or working toward any other goal, don't let the fear of failure stop you. Take small steps, embrace mistakes, and use them to become better. It's all part of the journey, and each failure brings you closer to where you want to be.
That's such an important message, Julia. Failure doesn't define us. Our response to it does. If we can overcome the fear of failure and see it as a valuable part of the learning process, then there's nothing stopping us from achieving our goals. In the next part of our podcast, we'll talk more about how failure and success are connected and how we can use both to our advantage in life. So stay with us as we continue this important conversation. One of the most important steps towards achieving success, whether in learning a new skill or reaching any other goal, is to make sure that the goals we set are realistic. If our goals are too big or too vague, it can be really hard to make progress, and that can lead to frustration and even giving up. A great way to avoid this is by setting what we call SMART goals. This stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Let me break that down for you. First, a goal should be specific. This means it should be clear and well-defined. For example, instead of saying, "I want to learn English," you could say, "I want to learn 10 new vocabulary words every week." The more specific your goal is, the easier it will be to know exactly what you need to do.
Yes, that's a great point, Adam. The second part of a SMART goal is that it should be measurable. This means that you should be able to track your progress. If you can't measure your goal, how will you know when you've achieved it? For example, if your goal is to improve your English speaking skills, you could measure this by setting a goal to have a 5-minute conversation in English every day. That way, you can keep track of how many conversations you've had and see your improvement over time. Having a measurable goal helps you stay motivated because you can see how far you've come.
Exactly. The third part is achievable. And this one is really important because if you set goals that are too difficult or unrealistic, it's easy to get discouraged. We all want to reach high, but we also need to be honest with ourselves about what's possible given our current situation. If you're just starting to learn English, it wouldn't be realistic to say, "I want to speak fluently in 3 months." That's a very difficult goal for most people, and setting a goal like that could lead to disappointment. Instead, you could aim for something like, "I want to learn how to introduce myself and have basic conversations in the next 3 months." That's much more achievable and will keep you motivated to keep going.
And that brings us to relevant. Your goals should be aligned with what you actually want to achieve and what's important to you. Ask yourself, is this goal really relevant to my long-term plans? For example, if your main focus is improving your speaking skills, then setting a goal to read 10 books in English might not be the most relevant thing for you right now. Instead, a relevant goal would be practicing conversations with friends or joining an English-speaking group. It's all about making sure that your goals are moving you towards your bigger objective.
That's a key point, Julia. And finally, we have time-bound. This means setting a deadline for your goal. When we set goals without any time frame, it's easy to procrastinate or lose focus. By giving yourself a deadline, you create a sense of urgency that helps you stay on track. For instance, if your goal is to learn 50 new vocabulary words, you could say, I want to learn 50 new words by the end of this month. That time-bound element helps you stay focused and organized, making it more likely that you'll achieve your goal.
But sometimes, people set goals that are just too ambitious, and when they don't reach them, they feel like they've failed. This is why it's so important to be realistic. Setting goals that are too high, like trying to learn a new language perfectly in a few weeks, can lead to frustration and burnout. Instead, it's better to break that big goal down into smaller, more achievable steps. When you accomplish those smaller steps, it builds momentum and keeps you motivated. For example, if your big goal is to become fluent in English, don't try to master everything at once. Start with something smaller, like learning 5 new vocabulary words a day or practicing speaking for 10 minutes each day. These smaller steps will eventually add up to big progress.
Absolutely, Julia. And another tip for setting realistic goals is to celebrate small victories. When you reach a small goal, take a moment to recognize your achievement. This could be as simple as finishing a chapter in your English workbook, or finally feeling comfortable ordering food in English at a restaurant. Each small success helps build your confidence and pushes you towards bigger achievements. It's like climbing a mountain. You don't reach the top in one giant leap. You take it step by step, and each step is an accomplishment on its own.
That's so true, Adam. And it's important to remember that it's okay to adjust your goals along the way. If you find that something is too difficult, or if your circumstances change, you can always modify your goals to make them more realistic. There's no shame in adjusting a goal if it helps you stay on track. For example, if you initially set a goal to study English for 2 hours a day but find that it's too overwhelming, it's okay to change it to 30 minutes a day. What matters most is consistency and making steady progress.
Exactly, Julia. And by setting realistic, achievable goals, you're setting yourself up for long-term success. Whether it's learning English or achieving any other goal, the process is the same. Start small, stay focused, and build momentum. Success doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of taking consistent action over time. And when you set smart goals, you create a clear roadmap to follow, making it much easier to stay motivated and see real progress.
So, to all our listeners out there, if you're feeling stuck or unsure about how to achieve your goals, remember that it's all about setting realistic, manageable steps. Break your big goals down into smaller, more achievable ones and give yourself the time and space to grow. Success isn't about being perfect. It's about making progress, one step at a time.
Exactly, Julia. And with that, let's take a quick break before we dive into the next part of our discussion, where we'll talk about the importance of self-reflection and how it plays a role in achieving both success and overcoming failure.
Success is often viewed as a source of happiness and joy. When we achieve our goals, whether big or small, it can create a wonderful sense of accomplishment that boosts our confidence and overall well-being. However, it's important to recognize that success can also bring about a unique set of pressures and expectations. For instance, when someone receives a promotion at work, they might feel thrilled at first, but soon after, they may start to worry about meeting new expectations and proving themselves in their new role. This pressure can lead to stress, anxiety, and even a fear of failure in the future. It's crucial to understand that while success can be fulfilling, it can also come with challenges that affect our emotions.
Absolutely, Julia. On the flip side, failure can evoke feelings of sadness, disappointment, or frustration. When we don't reach our goals or when things don't go as planned, it's natural to feel upset. However, it's essential to see failure not just as a negative experience, but as a vital opportunity for learning and personal growth. For example, consider someone who doesn't pass an important exam. While the initial feeling might be one of sadness or defeat, this experience can teach valuable lessons about the areas that need improvement, study habits, or time management. Each failure can provide insight that ultimately contributes to future success if we choose to learn from it. This perspective shift is key to managing our emotions during challenging times.
Exactly, Adam. When we look at both success and failure, it's clear that they can have a profound emotional impact on us. It's important to recognize our feelings during these times and understand that it's perfectly normal to experience a wide range of emotions. Whether you're celebrating a success or coping with a failure, how we manage these emotions is critical. For instance, during moments of success, it's helpful to take a step back and enjoy the achievement rather than rushing to the next goal. Take time to appreciate your hard work and recognize what you've accomplished. This practice not only boosts your happiness, but also helps prevent burnout.
Right, Julia. And similarly, when we face failure, we need to give ourselves the grace to feel those emotions without judgment. It's easy to fall into a negative mindset after a setback, but allowing ourselves to feel sad or frustrated can be part of the healing process. It's important to practice self-compassion, which means treating ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a friend in a similar situation. Instead of harshly criticizing ourselves for not succeeding, we can acknowledge that everyone experiences failure at some point and that it's part of the journey. By being patient with ourselves during these times, we open the door to personal growth.
That's a great point, Adam. Another tip for managing emotions during both success and failure is to reflect on the experience. Taking time to analyze what happened, what you learned, and how you can apply those lessons in the future can be incredibly beneficial. For example, if you succeed, think about the strategies and habits that helped you get there so you can replicate them in the future. On the other hand, if you experience failure, consider what adjustments you can make moving forward. This reflection process allows us to turn emotional experiences into actionable insights.
Absolutely, Julia. And let's not forget the importance of support during these times. Sharing our successes with friends and family can enhance our feelings of happiness and fulfillment. When we celebrate together, it strengthens our connections and reinforces our sense of achievement. Conversely, during moments of failure, reaching out to loved ones can provide comfort and encouragement. Talking about our feelings can help alleviate the weight of disappointment and remind us that we are not alone in our struggles. It's essential to lean on our support networks during both highs and lows.
Yes, and it's important to cultivate a growth-oriented environment around us. Surrounding ourselves with positive influences, friends, mentors, or even communities that encourage learning from mistakes can help us maintain a balanced perspective on success and failure. Being in an environment that fosters growth and resilience can make a significant difference in how we manage our emotions and navigate challenges.
Exactly, Julia. Remember, it's all about balance. Emotions are a natural part of the human experience, and recognizing that both success and failure contribute to our personal development is crucial. By practicing self-compassion, reflecting on our experiences, and building a strong support system, we can navigate the emotional ups and downs that come with success and failure in a healthier way.
So, to our listeners, whether you're celebrating a recent success or working through a setback, know that it's okay to feel a mix of emotions. Embrace the journey, learn from your experiences, and remember that both success and failure are stepping stones on the path to personal growth. With that, let's take a moment to pause and reflect on our own experiences before moving on to the next segment of our podcast.
Now let's dive into an incredibly important topic: learning from failure. It's crucial to understand that failure is not the end of the road. Rather, it can be one of the most significant teachers we encounter throughout our lives. When we experience a setback, it often comes with a wealth of knowledge and insights that we can use to grow. Think about it. Each time we stumble, we have the opportunity to assess what went wrong, identify areas for improvement, and adjust our strategies for future endeavors. Failure teaches us resilience, adaptability, and problem-solving skills, all of which are vital for success.
Absolutely, Adam. The concept of resilience is so important here. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from difficulties and challenges. When we face failure, it can be tempting to throw in the towel and give up. However, those who succeed often share a common trait. They refuse to quit. They embrace the idea that failure is merely a stepping stone on their path to achieving their goals. For example, consider the story of J.K. Rowling, the famous author of the Harry Potter series. Before her success, she faced numerous rejections from publishers and even struggled financially as a single mother. Yet, instead of giving up on her dream of becoming a writer, she persisted, and ultimately, her first book was published, leading to an incredible series that has touched millions of lives. Rowling's journey illustrates the power of resilience and the importance of learning from the setbacks we encounter.
That's a fantastic example, Julia. Another well-known figure who embodies this concept is Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb. Edison famously stated, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." His relentless pursuit of innovation is a testament to the idea that failure is simply a part of the process. Each of his unsuccessful attempts brought him one step closer to success. Edison's story teaches us that the road to achievement is often paved with obstacles, but it's how we respond to those obstacles that truly defines our journey.
Exactly. Both Rowling and Edison faced significant challenges, but they also recognized the lessons hidden within their failures. This ability to extract knowledge from setbacks is what sets successful individuals apart. So, listeners, let's take a moment to encourage you to reflect on your own experiences with failure. Think about a time when you faced a setback. What happened? How did you feel? More importantly, what lessons did you learn from that experience? By reflecting on our failures, we can identify patterns, develop better strategies, and ultimately become more resilient in the face of future challenges.
That's a great exercise, Julia. It's important to remember that failure is not something to be ashamed of. Instead, it's a natural part of life and learning. If we can shift our mindset to view failures as opportunities for growth, we'll be better equipped to handle whatever comes our way. Here are a few tips to help you learn from your failures. First, take time to analyze what went wrong. This means being honest with yourself about your decisions and actions. Second, identify the specific lessons you can extract from the experience. Ask yourself what you would do differently next time. Finally, keep a positive attitude. Remind yourself that every successful person has faced failure, and it's an essential part of the journey to achieving your goals.
Those tips are incredibly valuable, Adam. One last thought to share with our listeners is the importance of sharing your experiences with others. Talking about your failures and the lessons you've learned can not only help you process your feelings, but can also inspire and support those around you. By sharing your journey, you can encourage others to embrace their failures and learn from them as well. Remember, learning from failure is a collective journey, and we all have something to gain from each other's experiences.
Well said, Julia. In summary, failure is not a barrier to success, but rather a vital component of it. By embracing failure, learning from it, and fostering resilience, we can transform our setbacks into powerful stepping stones toward achieving our goals. So let's carry this mindset forward as we continue our conversation. Up next, we will explore how to cultivate a positive and growth-oriented environment that supports our learning journey. As we continue our exploration of the psychology behind success and failure, we arrive at a crucial topic: motivation and self-belief. These two elements are integral to not only achieving our goals, but also to overcoming the challenges and setbacks that life inevitably throws our way. Self-belief is the foundation upon which we build our success. It's about having faith in our abilities and knowing that we are capable of achieving what we set out to do. When we truly believe in ourselves, we are more likely to take risks, pursue our passions, and push through the tough times. This sense of self-efficacy can make all the difference when we encounter obstacles.
Absolutely, Adam. Staying motivated, especially during challenging times, can often feel like an uphill battle. Life has a way of testing our resolve, and maintaining our motivation is essential for navigating these periods of difficulty. One powerful strategy to stay motivated is to focus on the journey rather than just the destination. When we appreciate the small steps we take each day, we cultivate a sense of purpose and progress. This approach allows us to acknowledge our efforts, which can be incredibly motivating in itself. Remember, every big success is made up of countless small victories, and recognizing these achievements can fuel our motivation to keep moving forward.
That's a great point, Julia. Celebrating small victories is vital in building our confidence. When we achieve even minor goals, it reinforces our belief in our abilities and encourages us to strive for more significant accomplishments. For example, let's say you're learning a new language, such as English. When you master a new word, hold a simple conversation, or understand a phrase in a movie, these moments are worth celebrating. Each small victory contributes to a growing sense of competence and confidence, propelling you towards larger milestones. This momentum can make all the difference in how you approach future challenges.
Exactly. One inspiring story that illustrates this idea is that of Oprah Winfrey. She faced numerous obstacles throughout her life, including a challenging childhood and a career filled with setbacks. However, Oprah always maintained a strong sense of self-belief and motivation. Even when she encountered rejections and failures early in her career, she persevered. Oprah's unwavering belief in herself and her mission ultimately led her to become a media mogul and an influential figure worldwide. Her journey exemplifies how staying motivated and believing in oneself can lead to remarkable success, no matter the challenges faced along the way.
Oprah's story is truly motivating. Another great example is J.K. Rowling, who we mentioned earlier. Before achieving immense success with the Harry Potter series, she faced numerous rejections from publishers, was living on welfare, and felt defeated at times. Despite these challenges, she maintained her self-belief and motivation to keep writing. Rowling didn't let her circumstances dictate her future. Instead, she viewed her struggles as part of her journey. Ultimately, her perseverance paid off, and she became one of the best-selling authors in history. Her ability to stay motivated and believe in her dream is a powerful lesson for all of us.
These stories remind us that motivation and self-belief are not just about talent or luck. They're about resilience, commitment, and the willingness to keep going, even when the path is difficult. It's essential to surround ourselves with positive influences and support systems that encourage our growth and self-belief. When we have a supportive network, friends, family, mentors, we're more likely to stay motivated and keep pushing through tough times. Sharing our goals with others can also increase our accountability, making it easier to maintain our motivation.
Great insights, Julia. As we wrap up this section, let's encourage our listeners to reflect on their own sources of motivation and the beliefs they hold about themselves. Consider what drives you to pursue your goals. What small victories can you celebrate today? Remember, motivation and self-belief are essential components of success. By nurturing these qualities and recognizing our achievements, we can overcome challenges and continue to grow, both personally and professionally.
Absolutely. By cultivating a mindset of motivation and self-belief, we equip ourselves to face whatever obstacles may come our way. Up next, we'll explore the importance of surrounding ourselves with supportive people and creating a positive environment that fosters our growth and success.
As we delve deeper into the psychology behind success and failure, It's crucial to recognize the intricate relationship between these two concepts. Many people often think of success and failure as opposites, but in reality, they are intertwined in a much more complex way. Success is not simply the absence of failure. Instead, it is often the result of learning from our failures. Every successful individual you admire has likely faced numerous setbacks and obstacles along their path. Understanding that success and failure go hand in hand can empower us to approach our own journeys with resilience and a willingness to learn.
Exactly, Adam. This connection between success and failure is something we must all grasp. Failure is not the end. It's a stepping stone toward success. Think of it as a part of the journey. When we encounter failure, we are presented with an invaluable opportunity to learn and grow. This idea is vital in shaping our understanding of what success truly means. It's about progress, perseverance, and the courage to keep moving forward despite the setbacks we might face along the way. Instead of fearing failure, we should embrace it as a necessary part of our growth and development.
Let's look at some well-known figures who exemplify this concept. One remarkable example is Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple Inc. Jobs faced many failures early in his career, including being ousted from Apple, the very company he helped to create. This setback could have discouraged him, but instead he used it as a learning experience. He founded Next and Pixar during his time away from Apple, both of which taught him valuable lessons about innovation, leadership, and creativity. When he returned to Apple, he brought with him a wealth of knowledge and a fresh perspective that helped transform the company into one of the most successful tech giants in the world. Jobs often stated that his failures were essential to his eventual success, emphasizing that failure played a crucial role in shaping his career and vision.
Steve Jobs' journey is truly inspiring. Another powerful example is that of Oprah Winfrey, who has become a global icon of success. Oprah faced immense challenges throughout her life, including a difficult childhood and several career setbacks. Early in her career, she was fired from a television news job because she was deemed unfit for TV. Rather than letting this failure define her, Oprah embraced the opportunity to pivot her career and ultimately created her own talk show, which became incredibly successful. Oprah has often shared that the struggles she faced helped her build resilience and a deeper understanding of herself and her audience. She famously stated that her failures were stepping stones that led her to her greatest successes. This perspective is incredibly valuable for anyone navigating their own path to success.
Indeed, Oprah's story illustrates the importance of perseverance and the belief that failures are not definitive endpoints, but rather crucial parts of our journey. They teach us lessons that can propel us toward success in ways we may not initially see. It's important to realize that every failure provides us with feedback and insights that can inform our future decisions. By examining what went wrong and understanding why we fell short, we can adjust our approach and improve our chances of success next time.
This leads to a crucial tip for our listeners. When you experience a setback or failure, take time to reflect on the experience. Ask yourself questions like, what did I learn from this? How can I do things differently in the future? This reflective practice can turn a painful failure into a valuable lesson. It can shift your mindset from one of defeat to one of opportunity and growth. Embracing this mindset can change how we approach challenges and setbacks in our lives.
Additionally, it's essential to surround ourselves with a supportive community. Share your experiences of failure with trusted friends, family, or mentors. They can provide valuable insights and encouragement that help you see the bigger picture. Connecting with others who have faced similar challenges can be incredibly reassuring. Remember, you are not alone in this journey. Many successful individuals have walked the same path, and hearing their stories can provide motivation and perspective during tough times.
Another helpful practice is to celebrate your failures as much as your successes. It might sound counterintuitive, but acknowledging the lessons learned from failure can be empowering. Create a failure journal where you document your setbacks, what you learned from each, and how you plan to move forward. This practice reinforces the idea that failure is a vital part of the learning process, and it can help reduce the stigma that often surrounds failure in our society.
As we wrap up this segment, let's remind our listeners to embrace failure as part of their success journey. Every setback is an opportunity for growth and learning, and recognizing this can help shift your perspective on what it means to succeed. By understanding that success and failure are connected, we can cultivate a mindset that is resilient and open to continuous improvement. Whether you're learning a new language, pursuing a career, or striving for personal development, remember that each failure can bring you one step closer to achieving your goals.
Well said, Adam. In our next section, we'll explore strategies for embracing failure and learning from it in more depth, ensuring that our listeners leave with practical tools they can apply in their own lives.
As we come to the end of today's episode on the English Globe, let's take a moment to summarize the key points we've discussed regarding the psychology behind success and failure. Throughout our conversation, we've explored how success is not merely the absence of failure, but a journey that often involves navigating through various setbacks. We started by defining success as achieving our goals and experiencing personal growth, while we understood failure as not reaching our expected outcomes. Both are essential parts of life, and it's vital to recognize that they coexist in our daily experiences.
That's right, Adam. One of the most critical concepts we covered is the role of mindset. We learned about the difference between a fixed mindset, which can limit our potential, and a growth mindset that encourages us to embrace challenges and learn from our mistakes. This shift in perspective can make all the difference in how we approach our goals and handle setbacks. By adopting a growth mindset, we empower ourselves to see failure not as a defeat, but as an opportunity for learning and improvement.
We also talked about the importance of setting realistic and achievable goals through the SMART framework. This method helps us create clear, structured objectives that lead to measurable progress. Unrealistic goals can often result in frustration and disappointment, so taking the time to break our ambitions into smaller, manageable steps is essential for maintaining motivation and confidence. Remember, every small achievement contributes to the larger picture of success.
Absolutely, Adam. Another significant aspect we discussed was the emotional impact of success and failure. Success often brings joy, but it can also come with pressure and expectations. On the other hand, failure can be disheartening, yet it also offers us a chance to grow stronger and more resilient. We emphasized the importance of managing our emotions during both success and failure, encouraging practices like self-compassion and patience, which can help us navigate the emotional rollercoaster that comes with pursuing our goals.
Moreover, we highlighted how failure can be a powerful teacher, urging listeners to reflect on their own experiences with failure and the valuable lessons they learned from those moments. Embracing our failures and understanding how they contribute to our success is crucial for personal development. By sharing stories of successful individuals who overcame multiple setbacks, we illustrated that failure is often a necessary part of the journey.
And as we wrap up, we encourage our listeners to actively reflect on their personal experiences with success and failure. Take a moment to think about the times you faced setbacks and what you learned from them. Consider how those lessons shaped your path toward achieving your goals. This reflection can be a powerful exercise in understanding your growth and resilience.
Thank you for joining us on this enlightening discussion about the psychology behind success and failure. Remember, success is not a straight path, but a journey filled with ups and downs, each offering opportunities for growth. We hope you found our conversation valuable and inspiring as you navigate your own path toward success.
Don't forget to subscribe to the English Globe for more engaging discussions and insights. We look forward to exploring more topics with you in future episodes. Until next time, keep reflecting, learning, and growing.
As we conclude this episode of the English Globe, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to all our listeners for tuning in and engaging with us on this important topic of the psychology behind success and failure. Your support means a lot to us, and we hope you found the discussion insightful and applicable to your own journey. Remember, every step you take towards understanding success and failure is a step towards personal growth. So keep pushing forward.
Absolutely, Adam. And before we say goodbye, I'd like to give our listeners a little sneak peek of what's coming up in our next episode. We'll be diving into a fascinating discussion about the role of motivation in achieving your goals. We'll explore how motivation can drive us to overcome challenges and stay committed to our aspirations, so you definitely won't want to miss it. Be sure to subscribe to the English Globe so you can catch this exciting episode as soon as it drops.
Yes, subscribing is a great way to stay updated on all our latest content. We have so many engaging topics lined up for you, and we can't wait to share them. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving us a review or sharing it with friends who might benefit from our discussions. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more learners around the world.
And remember, learning English is a journey, and every step counts. Keep practicing, stay curious, and don't hesitate to embrace both success and failure as part of that process. Until next time, keep striving for your goals and celebrating your achievements, no matter how small they may seem.
That's right. Thank you once again for being part of our community here at the English Globe. We appreciate you and look forward to our next conversation. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Goodbye and happy learning. We'll see you in the next episode.